We are recording. So good evening or hello to you, whoever you are, whenever you are looking at this presentation of a strategic assessment of the 3M Corporation. Thanks for coming on board and joining us for this interesting review. At this point, I am going to turn the presentation over to LaTanya. And she is going to share her screen and start the presentation. LaTanya, it is all yours.
So I hit share screen.
There she goes. She's sharing her screen. Oh, LaTanya, you've got to have your, there we go. Yeah, got to have it open first. All right.
Okay. So let's get the slideshow going.
Okay, you're showing, there we go. That's real good. All right.
And as Dr. Roney mentioned, we are doing a strategic analysis on 3M. The members of our team are Shanielle, Renisha, Michael, Charnel, and yours truly. There's our table of contents. I don't think there's a great importance for me to just tell you everything that's on it because everybody has presented, but I'll give you a second just to view that table of contents.
We actually did a quick review and we found out that most of our MBA students actually can read.
That's right. So there's no need for me to.
There has been some question, but generally our MBA folks can read pretty well. Yeah. They don't like to, by the way. They'd rather look at their cell phone and.
So this slide is an introduction of the background of 3M, and you'll see who our founders were. You see Mr. Bud and Mr. Dwayne and Ordway, William, Henry, and Herman, all founders of what used to be the Minnesota Mining. You'll see that here. 3M's evolution. You'll see that it was formerly known as Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. And there again are the founders listed. Cute little picture here. Dr. Roney, can I minimize where you guys are because it cuts off part of my notes?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. You just won't be able to see us anymore.
Well, it won't let me minimize, I don't think. Okay, good. So 3M's evolution. And it gives you, this slide gives you the original goal of 3M. And that goal was to harvest a mineral recognized as, now, Dr. Rooney, help me pronounce this.
Corundum.
Thank you. But since that failed, 3M focuses their efforts on materials and other products instead. And keep in mind, they are a very innovative company. A lot of different industries. There at the bottom or in the middle, you'll see the original office of 3M. As noted, it is a museum now. And this slide is really cool. You get to see a lot of things that are some samples of some things that 3M is currently over. We are really fond of the eye picture, the prosthesis. 3M actually makes that plastic that those prostheses are used, or the acrylic plastic, I should say, that is used to make those. That's really cool. And you'll see different products. A lot of people are probably familiar with a lot of the healthcare products, as well as some of the safety things, protective gloves and glasses. Continuing on with 3M's evolution. So they have more than 6,000 researchers and scientists around the world. Big. They are very big. And they are big in science and research and development. You'll see that as we continue to go on. There are 15% of their time is used in research and development, pursuing projects, being innovative. They are very innovative, as I mentioned before. You'll see one of the greatest or lead scientists there, Dr. Richard Drew, or scientist Richard Drew. current line of products and services, and this kind of groups everything together. They're really known for their industrial products, the automotive, electronics, appliances, printing, packaging. They're very well known, I'm sorry, for safety products, security products. They're well known for their electronics and energy products as well in their industry. They have done a lot with high performance electronic devices. More familiar sometimes is the healthcare industry that they are also well known for. A lot of clinics, medical clinics and hospitals, and use a lot of their products, and you'll see some of those products as we go on. And then the consumer market, home improvement and building maintenance and things of that nature. They are.
Don't forget Post-it notes and Scotch tape and Scotch Guard.
See, here we are. That slide. Those examples.
Wow. Okay.
See? Popular brands. Thank you, Dr. Roney.
You're welcome.
And I think a lot of us use Post-it notes, so we could definitely relate to that. And Scotch tape. Here you see some examples of 3M's products, because they use a lot of adhesives. And I think you'll learn a little bit about that as we go further. But here are some examples of things that have adhesive in it that you may not have been familiar with. And that's a degreaser, a fire barrier block, laminator, all using adhesive. Here are some more examples of their healthcare products, things that you can go in your local store or drugstore and get, an ACE bandage, clippers, things of that nature. And here is a list of key events in 3M's history. Like we mentioned, I know everyone can read, and I know you don't want me to read everything to you, so I will just mention those that are highlighted.
Good for you.
In 1920, this was a big event. They had or created and released waterproof sandpaper. That's neat. 1925, Richard Drew invented the masking tape. Big deal. 1980, again, most of us are very, very familiar with this product, was the introduction of Post-it notes. And not going to read all of 2016, but you'll see that they, at the bottom, how they, again, put a lot in research and development. 3M's mission. 3M uses innovation to improve lives daily. And just ad-libbing a little bit here, you can see with the products that we've just shown so far, how they are very interested in customer responsiveness. The things that they create are always an effort to meet the customer need and to, they want to make business also, but make money and do well in business, but they are very innovative and they're always concerned about meeting the customer's needs. The vision is, in order to accomplish this, 3M relies heavily on research and development. There it is again. And they have been very superior with quality. Going along, and just to reiterate some of those things in their mission, I'll jump right here to the second line, provide the needs of manufacturing, healthcare, and automotive industries. And these are the things that they use, that they are using a lot of specialized film, adhesives, as we mentioned before, specialized plastics. You can reference back to the prosthesis for the eyes, or that's a specialized plastic, chemicals and filters. Giving you more examples, here's one, their wound care products, and chemistry and adhesives are all combined in this. This is Tegaderm. Tegaderm foam adhesive, very good wound care. And these things like this differentiates 3M from some of their competitors having these things. Here's a spray on paint protecting film. Some more plastics, some more Command products that you see a lot in stores. You see examples of the hooks like we see on TV to hang your pocketbooks on, or other little things that you have.
All these things stick on the wall, huh?
All of them stick on the wall.
Yeah, they may not all be tape or adhesive, but they've got adhesive on them.
That's right. Now, I'm sure Dr. Rooney has made so much money. His wife's pocketbook probably won't stay on the wall, but it's probably some pretty good stuff. We probably can hang ours on the wall. Going to Abel's model. Here's a list of the served markets of 3M. Industrial, safety and graphics, healthcare again, electronics and energy, and consumer. Just adding on to Abel's market. You'll see the alternative technologies. They use that a lot. Trying to solve customer problems, again, doing customer responsiveness. See customer groups, industry size, and geography. They're always concerned about those things. And here are some, going to the unmet needs, some more examples of things that, again, to us is really cool. Visual attention software. If you see the picture in your top right, the highest picture, 3M is actually, or has actually created this product. You can actually see graphics on vehicles. They're doing some great things. Safety and highways. Dr. Rooney taught us about the reflective tape on the highways. You drive at night and you can see, and those things in the middle of the street. That's 3M. 3D printing materials, electronic inhalers. You'll see that they use polymers in those things, and those are examples there in the middle picture.
It might be important to note that 3M doesn't necessarily make those things that the arrow is pointing to, but the material that they are made out of are the results of specialized chemical processes and chemical products that 3M produces. And then whoever it is that wants to make these particular things can mold them, can make them in molds with this material that 3M produces.
Thank you, Dr. Rooney. That's exactly right. Which I'm sure you knew it was right. Distinctive competencies. Research and development, if you see that is top. Organic and inorganic growth, advanced technology. And those advanced technologies are done through diversification and new technologies. They're very innovative, again. New technologies in the healthcare industry as well. The vision of mission accomplishment. To solve the unsolved innovatively. I don't think we can say that enough about 3M. They are very innovative. 3M is a diversified technology company. Serving customers, again, being concerned with customer responsiveness, with innovative products and services. Very committed to research and development. Very committed to being social, company responsible in their society. Research and development and innovation, again, very, very committed to that. External drivers. The first one reads, new drug delivery products and health information systems drive the sales of 3M's healthcare segment. So I actually had to learn about that. And just in case you don't know, Dr. Rooney knows, but just in case anybody else doesn't know, They are actually very well known and active in drug delivery solutions with meters for aerosol, transdermal technology, things like that. 3M is very, very active in that delivery, drug delivery products market or segment in the healthcare. There's growth in their transportation sector. As we mentioned, the reflective tape that you see on highways or in the highway that helps you stay in your lane. That's 3M. Their global drivers are the healthcare products and services. Other drivers include the economy. So 3M is also very, very, very wide range. They are in several different markets, not afraid to enter into new markets. And their presence is very well known. They have a lot of different products that cater to a lot of different needs of their consumers. They develop in other countries. They have manufacturing operations everywhere. They are very, very innovative again, and they will and do not mind entering in new markets, new areas. Here's a graph or chart that'll just summarize that, and you'll be able to see different places like Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America. You'll see Europe over there and the percent that they are, that their population is over 60.
Well, am I reading this graph right, Latonia? Let me see. It looks like we've got a forecast for 2050. And the blue bar is 2006 and the yellow one's for 2050. So we can see not just where population is high and low today, but, and this looks like the distribution throughout the world. Is that right there? This is it says percent on the y-axis.
Right.
I'm sort of wondering just how this is working, because we've got just about every area of the world, and the percentages, would have to add up to 100. Not sure exactly what the numbers on this graph mean. It's pretty obvious that Europe is, because it's got so many countries, this graph suggests is going to grow pretty substantially between now and 2050. Asia,
that's what I believe it to be.
Asia is going to grow to, I'm just wondering what the numbers on this chart refer to. Clearly they refer to percentages because they match up with the y-axis. And there's no doubt about it, they're trying to show us that the proportion of the world's population they represent. What bothers me a little is that, to my knowledge, Asia is expected to represent a really large portion of the population, but Africa is expected to grow even faster, that its population is expected to grow very rapidly. So I'm a little confused by this graph.
So do you think in 2006, maybe they did not expect for Africa to grow quite as fast?
Well, in 2006, it's already happened. That's supposed to be actual. So I'm just, I don't know quite what to make of this graph. Whose graph is it?
This is the graph I inserted, Dr. Ronan, and the way I read it was that they were trying to show the growth rate of the population of people that was going to be over the age 60. And supposedly what this tells us is that the people over the age 60 is going to drive the healthcare segment up, which 3M is trying to make more money off the healthcare segment.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Mike, so what we're looking at is the folks who are over 60
Correct.
and the proportion of the population in each of these countries.
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't awake, was I? All
Correct.
right.
Yes, that's correct.
So in Europe, we're going to have a much older population. In Africa, we're going to have a younger population, even if the elderly are growing somewhat.
This is
Asia,
correct.
we're going to see a lot more aging and so forth.
You
And
got to realize
the significance of this chart would be to indicate that it's a driver of what?
of the healthcare system.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
And what
Okay.
happens with, you get to realize too, a lot of these other countries are developing nations. So with respect to the age difference, you're going to see that the healthcare system is actually better in Europe, for example, than it is in Africa.
Right. So it's no surprise that people don't live as long in Africa.
Correct.
So the folks over 60 aren't as large a population. In Europe, it's a little different than that.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for explaining, Mike.
Thank you.
Environmental assessment. Viewing the economic trends. An external driver, you'll see money in these areas, the exchange rate of US and Euro, Brazil exchange rate, Japan's. You'll see in 2008 top slide with US and Euro foreign exchange rate. How that jump went up, maybe 2009, maybe a little bit after 2008. There's a decline, and then as 2016 comes, that changes. Kind of spikes over there in Brazil around 2016.
Yeah, basically, when the line goes up, the dollar's worth more of that currency.
That's right.
And when the line goes down, it's not.
Not as
There's a reversal of that pattern in one chart, and that's the euro. And so in the case of the euro buys fewer dollars, but in all the other cases, the dollar buys more of that currency. And the simple bottom pattern here is that the dollar is growing stronger, which means that it's more difficult for Americans to ship products made here to other countries. But it's easier for manufacturers in other countries to ship things here because we can buy more of their foreign currencies with our dollar. And by the same token, it suggests that 3M, rather than manufacturing their products in the United States, can probably manufacture them less costly and sell them at lower prices if they have manufacturing locations in the markets where they're selling. On the other hand, if they want to sell outside those markets to a more developed nation like the US, that's kind of difficult. The last thing that I'll add here is that when these businesses of 3M and other countries make profits in those other countries, and the value of that currency is declining, then when they ship those profits and those currencies to the United States, they have to convert them in a hurry because the longer they wait, the more likely it is that those currencies will be less valuable when they are turned into dollars. On the other hand, if the reverse were true, if the dollar were declining in value, what's the smart move? The smart move is to hold your profit in those other countries and wait for those currencies to get even more valuable, and then ship them to the United States when they can make an even larger profit. So the treasurer of 3M is constantly making these judgments. Should I leave the profit overseas? should I bring it right back here? And that's what the financial folks in all of these large corporations with foreign operations do.
Thank you, Dr. Rooney. And also, like we learned in the other presentations also, is China is a very big or important growth market. And that's noticeable there and how they're shipping out, even though that the value dropped there, and they're still very strong and very important to try to get in that market and stay in that market and do well in that market. Here are the exchange rate trends. Seems like France seems to be very, very, I'm sorry, looking at the wrong thing, I'm sorry. It seems like China, again, is very, very strong market, and the exchange rate there would be great to be able to stay in that market and do well. You'll see how it spikes up in 2015.
Yeah, we got a little glitch here in that because the years are backward. Yeah, the currency doesn't start at zero over there. It would be good if we just didn't have those lines between where it says currency and 2015. But what we can see is, as LaTonya points out, the yuan, you can buy about 6 1/4 yuan when this chart was done in 2015 with $1. You can see that a dollar between 2014 and 2015 could buy a lot more Brazilian reals, and that's because their economy was a big mess. Recently, that trend reversed because Brazil impeached its president, threw its president out because of some illegalities, malfeasance, what have you. And the new president, when the new president came in, gave foreign countries' financial institutions confidence that it would be okay to get back into Brazil. And so today the dollar buys fewer reals than it did in 2015. But you can see that trend shows that there was a rapidly deteriorating confidence in Brazil's economy. And so the dollar bought a whole lot more reals in 2015 than it did back in 2012.
Dr. Rooney, do you think any of these would ever be as strong as China?
Do I think what? What in China?
Do you think Australia, Brazil, or Canada would ever be as strong as China as far as the market or doing, entering that market? Will it be as beneficial to either of the other ones?
Well, what you can see is that the dollar, you got to read from right to left now.
Right.
You start at 2012 and you go to 2015. And we can see that the dollar starts out in 2012, we say at parity, meaning that 1 Australian dollar, they use the term dollar also, would buy 1 US dollar and vice versa. But by 2015, $1 bought 80 cents of Australian currency. And the reason is that the Australian economy has been real strong. Australia did not suffer a recession like we did because a lot of their raw material, including copper and iron, particularly iron, was being shipped in an unending stream into China because China was growing and building its industrial structure so rapidly. That sort of has slowed down now, and so if we were to continue this into 2016, we'd see that trend change a little bit. But your question was, what about Australia and China? And you really just have to, I don't know, it's like thinking about planets and the sun, I suppose, and gravity. You know, if we weren't flying around the sun as fast as we are, we would be drawn right into the sun, right? Because of gravity. What keeps us out here is that we're moving so fast, and with centrifugal force. Well, you got the same thing with China and Australia. China is the sun in the Pacific. China is the great big monster magnet. And most of the smaller economies in the Pacific area and the Pacific Rim react to and are sort of drawn into the Chinese aura. And Australia is part of that. So I think that Australia, even though it has an English language and a Dutch language, I might add, it will still pretty much for the foreseeable future be influenced by Chinese economy and Chinese policies, whether it likes it or not.
Okay. Now we'll look at the unemployment rate. We'll see it in United States, Brazil, Mexico, and France. For some reason, it seems that France has a very consistent unemployment rate, with the exception of around 2008. There's a little drop there, and maybe projected 2021. United States went through the recession, everybody knows, in 2008, but then you see an increase in 2010, 2011, and 2012. But look where it shows it projected in 2021.
And what's important about this for 3M?
Well, 3M is unemployment rate is going to people won't be able to purchase, basically. They can't purchase. If they can't purchase, 3M makes no money.
Can I interject? Disposable income.
Yeah.
That's going to actually drive down profitability for 3M.
Right. It drives down consumption. If people aren't employed, they're not going to buy as many Post-it notes.
That's right. If they don't make money, they don't spend money. Market trends. This slide shows the economic trends in United States and China and Europe. And you will see this is done in billions. Look at United States versus China again. And what the projection is in 2021.
Looks like China is growing pretty rapidly.
It looks like they have grown very, very well.
They are growing, yeah. If we had converted these numbers to purchasing power parity like you did with the European GDP, and it looks like you've converted China to GDP, but not the United States. But what we can see on this chart already is that China's GDP appears to be in the process of catching up with Europe, and Europe is a little larger than the United States. So if we had the numbers converted properly, we would actually see that China catches up with with Europe and with the United States around 2013 and 14. So China is now the largest economy in the world.
This slide shows you the economic trends for India, Mexico, and Brazil.
What stands out here?
It looks like India grows, Mexico kind of stays stable, and Brazil, well, there's a drop there in 2010, and then they excel. Brazil looks more stable. Like,
I wouldn't call Brazil. Take a look at 2000. You see, we had a recession back there in 2008 and 9, and you can see the little dip in Brazil back there.
right?
But we didn't have any recession in the world generally between 2014 and 16.
But they
But Brazil's economy dropped right into the crapper during that time, didn't it? Why did that happen? And it really comes down to some very bad economic policy decisions made by the government. And it's going to be a while. It looks like it'll be until 2018 till they catch up with where they were in 2014. And that line reaching up further in the future makes some assumptions that Brazil can get its economic act back together again. And that's what we all hope. But I'll give you an example. I've got some students in my traditional courses who are from Brazil. We have a lot of students at Mount Olive from Brazil. And a bunch of them are hoping they can stay here. The problem is that if they get money from home to pay their tuition and their expenses at Mount Olive, remember what's happened to the currency? Those reals, the current Brazilian currency, aren't buying as many dollars.
Yeah.
And boy, it's a stretch for them. However, those that are here are trying to figure out how to stay by getting an extension on their visa or something because they don't want to go back there because there aren't any jobs, you know? It's kind of tough there.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
And population trends. Japan,
Yeah.
that's big. That projection is big for 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the reason it looks like it's dropping so sharply is because of the scale. See, it only goes from 122 million to 129. So the drop from 2010 to 2021 is about 4 million people out of 128. So it's less than 4%. But when population drops like that, back to what Mike was telling us earlier, you know, there's less people buying Scotch tape in Japan right now, aren't there?
Right.
So that's not such a growth market.
That's right. United States seem to have grown pretty well. What do you think about that, Dr. Roney?
Well, there actually is quite a story there. Our birth rate is less than 2 children per family, per mother. And that is the replacement rate. The replacement rate is about 2.1. And we're running about 1.85. So how the hell are we growing? So are we going to keep growing? Now, again, you got to pay attention to the scale. Right now, we're at about 320 million. And the estimate is to get to about 335 million. So it's not a huge amount, but it is modest growth. How are we going to get this growth if we're not having enough babies to do it with?
You got to make some more babies.
You got to make more babies. Boy, I like that idea. That sounds like fun. Of course, it's not for the mother, you know, but the guys like it. No, the reason, there's another reason. So they're not assuming we're going to make more babies in that forecast. They're assuming we're going to have more immigrants. Oh, immigration, yeah. Okay, and it's because we have a steady flow of immigrants and a policy that even though we've had a lot of political hassle over it, is really welcoming immigrants. You know, if they're legal and they're the kind of immigrants we want, you know, this has been a nation that has grown through immigration. And it's because of that that our economy also grows. And fortunately, the people who immigrate are usually of employable age. They're not old folks, you know. So when they get employed, they pay Social Security thank heaven for that, because I need it. You know, it's you guys got to be paying into my Social Security and my Medicare, doggone it. So we want these employable people.
You're so smart, Dr. Rooney.
Oh, thank you.
So this chart is referencing our highway paved and unpaved miles per capita in the large countries in US, Europe, China, and India.
Well, this is important.
This is,
Who did this one?
I did.
Well, talk to us.
Okay, so basically, what the chart showed, you know, the amount of population per paved miles versus the unpaved miles, it's in the different countries. You know, in comparison to U.S., Europe, China, and India. So it's a lot of people in China. The population is heavier in China than any other country that's up here. And they actually have the least unpaved miles out of all of the four. Even though they're the most populated, they have the least amount of unpaved miles. And you can see as India is, you know, comes in second behind them in population. And they actually have the least amount of paved miles out of the four. And the U.S. is showing that we have the most paved miles out of all of the four countries. Uh-huh.
I think there may be a couple of zeros missing in India. But the point, I guess, is if I understand what you guys are trying to demonstrate here. And by the way, I would recommend that before we post this on Moodle, that you check your numbers for the paved miles in India and the unpaved. It may be that they're actually reversed a little bit. India does have a lot of paved miles. They're just in lousy shape. If you want to run trucks in India, you better have a lot of extra axles because they got a lot of paved miles, but they're just in awful condition. Our point here is, and you're absolutely right about China, if we divided the number of paved miles by the number of people in China or any of these other countries, we would see that the paved miles per capita or per 100,000 people is usually the way we do it. In China is lower than it is in Europe and the US. And what that means is that there's plenty of room to grow. I think we got that same kind of analysis from the Toyota folks last night,
right.
Those of you who were attending it. And the point is then that there's a lot of growth of highway miles to be expected in China. And frankly, there is in India too, although a lot of it is apparently going to have to be to retrofit or fix up the highway miles, paved miles they do have. But this is dynamite good news for 3M, isn't it? Because 3M's going to put all that tape down on the highway when they lay it down, and they're going to put that reflective tape and reflective paint on the fences that go along the highway. So 3M's probably thinking about how they're going to build another plant in China so they can accommodate all that demand for stuff that shines when your headlights get on it.
I was going to ask you, I remember you going over that last night with Toyota and referencing India about maybe the paved and unpaved miles aren't documented properly, maybe, or we just don't have all the information.
Well, what we saw last night, your exhibit is different than theirs because you have unpaved miles. They felt that when they went to the CIA fact book, they could not find unpaved miles. You seem to have found them. Frankly, if your 4455010 were over under paved miles, that would be about like what we saw last night. The 244,000 unpaved miles would be more like what they found. But my guess is that the ability to gather facts in India is just so limited because the country is so undeveloped, they just don't have the statistics on unpaved miles. Paved miles they do. But as I say, India's reputation is that the roadways are terrible. For instance, one of my teams in school today, virtually this afternoon, talked about Federal Express. And Federal Express has moved into India. The problem is that they can't use trucks there because the highway miles are so bad. So they bought a company called Prakesh, and Prakesh delivers freight on railroads because railroads go into the interior of India, and they can get the packages on railroads to they can get the packages to where they need to get them by putting them on trains, but they can't do it running trucks because the truck, if it goes too far on the roads of India, is going to drop an axle or something. So you might want to check these just before you send it to me to put on the Moodle to make sure that, you know, if these are the facts you found, then those are the ones you want to send me. But you might want to check it just to be sure.
Thank you.
The point is that we're talking about drivers. And that's the good part here. You guys have identified that the subject is drivers. Okay, and each one of these things you've been talking about, whether it's population, unemployment, the number of folks who are over 60, or the miles of paved road, all of those things drive demand for stuff that 3M makes. Did I get that right? Is that right?
Right.
I did all right? Okay.
You did great.
I was just checking.
This chart was very interesting to us when we went over hospital occupancy trends. So it looks as if France and Germany have 0 people in the hospital or in a bed or needing 3M's products, but that's not true. We Googled and we looked and we went at 3M, but the percentage rate is very low. It's like 1 to 3% for both of them.
I got a feeling that in 2013, they just must not have had the data or something.
And it also said that because France and Germany are both of them have universal health care, that they were both coming out of the recession during that time.
Yeah.
And they do cost sharing in both countries too.
Okay, well, you got to read this chart right. We'll forget about the dips. And of course, in 2015, Germany just had no data, so it drops to 0. So it's like that little line isn't there. But where is a hospital occupancy the highest?
In Australia.
Australia. Okay. What does that say? That means that the hospitals are kind of full.
Right.
Which would also mean something else. Going to build more hospitals. Going to need take care of the sick people, right? Right. By the same token, the occupancy rates are coming down, both in France and Australia. Why is that? That's a really interesting trend, but it is a real trend. It's happening also in Canada, as you can see. Why are the occupancy rates in hospitals coming down? And the answer is that our healthcare is going up, that we've got medicine that keeps us from getting sick. We've got, pacemakers and stents and all sorts of stuff, more chemicals. I tell you, at my age, I take more chemicals than Carter has pills. I'm a walking chemistry lab. And, but I'm still, look at me, I'm old and I'm still kicking. Keep your fingers crossed.
Here are the birth rate trends for United States, United Kingdom, China, India, Germany, Italy, Spain, Argentina. And look who's up there real high. India.
People in Argentina are very amorous.
I was going to leave that alone.
They just love each other, that's all.
They love each other, that's right.
They just... Okay. What do we have now?
Here, these graphs are demonstrating the industrial production in the United States. And you'll see that it has not been growing too rapidly in the recent years. And their major markets are not as attractive as they have been. Maybe that's the reason why you'll see the industrial and the production for manufacturing, and the other one on your right, the consumer goods.
Yeah, we've had, in the United States, manufacturing is really at a rough time of it. You can see how much it dipped during the recession.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's come back, it still hasn't gotten back to the level it was at before the recession. When we look at consumer goods, really remarkable that the consumer goods manufacturers, and we're talking about clothing, candy bars, and so forth, just anything that's consumers buy. And it's really remarkable that of all things, consumer goods have not recovered at the same rate that manufacturing has. I wonder why that is. Why do you think that consumer goods are not recovering, manufacturers are not recovering as fast as others?
In the United States or just overall?
Well, these are U.S. data. These are from the Federal Reserve.
But a lot of industries have gone out of the United States.
Yeah, that's one reason.
I think, if I may interject, my wife is in the manufacturing industry. She's a machinist. And what her company is noticing that it's actually cheaper for them to ship or actually to build products and stuff over in other countries like Mexico. The labor rates are much cheaper there. And I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Yeah. Another reason is that our economy is getting better, but our wages are not growing as fast as costs. And so the cost of food and shelter and transportation and healthcare go up, and takes more out of our budget. And therefore, there's less available to buy things like clothing and even a new car or a Harley. And so the affordability issue comes into play here, and it means that there's less demand for consumer goods that are manufactured. And Mike's absolutely right. We've had offshoring. And another thing that has entered into it is that technology is getting better and better. So we use a lot more robots. We use a lot more computer-controlled machinery. And some of that computer-controlled machinery, boy, it can do, one operator can do what it used to take 6 operators to do. And so all of that has had a big impact on manufacturing. Again, now, why do we care? Why do we care? I think you're going to show us, but why don't you tell me now? What is you told us that 3M has 6 different product categories that are named after the industry categories that they go into. But what is the biggest category for 3M?
It's in healthcare.
Is it healthcare or industrial manufacturers?
I think it's
Their biggest category for now and to the future is actually in healthcare. So they're putting more money into healthcare than any other actual area.
But industrial does carry, currently it does have the largest revenue intake for the company. It does provide most of the profits.
Yeah. So
making more money with it.
So what we're saying here is that 3M better get into things like healthcare, because manufacturing, at least in the U.S., it's still a big market for 3M, but it doesn't have the sex appeal that it used to. It's not growing quite as rapidly as it has in the past. It's growing again. You know, we do see growth in the industrial sector again, but 3M's economists, they follow these charts very closely. And that's why. Okay. You shouldn't let me do that. You should take over here.
We learn a lot from you.
Well, you go on and talk. I'd rather listen to you.
This slide is the auto production trends. You see the total sales, and I should say it's in millions. The total sales for North America and Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, South America. And this is important because 3M has a lot of products. Like, for example, in the beginning of the slide, if you remember, we had a picture or an example of the film that they use for protection over your paint, over your vehicles, just something as small as that, but there are a lot of different things. But things like that affect 3M. So knowing what the production, auto production trends is very important for 3M as well.
All right, let's hear it from somebody in your team now. Where's the growth? Who's the marketing analyst there? Where's the growth on this chart?
Let's see. I guess the growth was shown in 2015.
No, let's look at the countries. Which countries are growing with their car sales the fastest?
That would be China and Asia.
Asia. Mm-hmm.
And that's due to the population expansion in China.
Yeah, they're starting out in China in between 2012, the average was a little under 6 million cars a year. And by 2015, it was up to 20 million for 20 million. That's almost 400% growth. How do you do? They're going to need some more paved roads, no doubt about it.
You should have did a field trip and took us to China and India. You've already been, but we haven't.
Well, the next time I go, I'll invite you.
Thank you. Industry analysis. Major competitors for 3M are General Electric, Honeywell, and DuPont. This slide is going to just introduce some growth opportunities. And I think this is kind of referencing what Charnel was trying to say about how the healthcare segment and the revenue there has potential for growth. You'll see different examples for the.
Well, let's hear it from Charnel then. What are we looking at, Charnel?
What would you like to hear, Dr. Ronald?
I'd like you to tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay, showing that the potential, the revenue growth, shown by 3M, and then the estimate. So it's between 4 and 6%. Between as 2016 to 2020, it's showing the potential growth of the healthcare segment. Between sales, the different products that they make, which is the chronic care solutions, the infection prevention, oral care solutions, the health information systems, drug delivery, food safety, and operating margin. It shows the value. So in those different segments, it's showing that from 2016 to 2020, the amount of growth that's going to happen in the healthcare industry.
Looks like medical devices are a pretty big market there. You got $53 billion compared to $3 billion for food safety, or whatever the number of the measurement units are. But apparently, medical devices is really big. And similarly, it looks like infection protection is a really big market in the healthcare segment. So all of this is relevant to 3M's growth potential, right? Yes. Incidentally, there was one that was going to grow real fast, and that was healthcare IT. It's going to grow faster than any of the others. Between 5 and 8%.
And I do mention healthcare IT in the slide as well.
Okay.
Porter's 5 forces. 3M's main industry, the forces we're reviewing and on this report card is intensity of rivalry, threat of new entrants, threat of substitute products, bargaining power of buyers, and bargaining power of suppliers. The threat of substitute products, it's going to make a big impact for 3M.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's high because there's so many competitors out there willing to put a substitute product out there for it. So that's why that one's one of the highest ones in the industry.
That's right, Shanielle. As a matter of fact, here's one where I'll throw everybody a hint for the exam. Boy, look at them go for the pencils.
Right.
But 3M's all about substitution, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is in the specialty chemicals industry. And that's what 3M is in, the specialty chemicals industry. You know, it's all about finding a solution like we heard in the mission. It's about finding solutions for unsolved problems and figuring out in the laboratory how to solve them. And when you do, you're going to substitute for whatever they were doing before you found the better answer. And so this whole industry is one constant substitution after another. And who remembers what I tried to teach you about what's your fundamental strategy when substitution is a high force in the industry? What's the number one strategy?
Be the substitute.
Yeah. Say it louder.
Be the substitute.
Be the substitute. You've got to be the substitute. That's it. That is the strategic objective.
And saying also their threat of new entrants here is low because the capital to get into this kind of industry, they're a conglomerate and they're so diverse and the capital is extremely high. So people don't have that much capital to join because the barriers are high.
Absolutely.
And this is on Porter's industrial segment. And now you see the rivalry, just like Shanielle was just saying, how the threat of substitution or the substitute products, is impacted by the intensity of the rivalries in those markets and the bargaining power of buyers. And they're all like neck and neck. And foreign, you see they got a 5 there on the threat of new entrants.
Because in this particular segment, business segment, the industrial, there is not as much capital needed to join to start up a company in this one. So that one's a little bit higher because a lot of entrants will come in because the capital is lower.
Yeah, there are more people that make stuff for General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, on and on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
And so the industrial use of adhesives and specialty chemicals like plastics, yeah, it's the rivalry is very high because the prizes are so big.
Yeah, and that also gives the bargaining power of buyers is high too because they have so many different people they can go to.
Absolutely.
It's the report card or the Porter's 5 forces for safety. You see that the threat of substitutes there is still a little high, but not as high, it's moderately high. And I think that is because of the companies being able to provide more of a focused product that meets the needs of the customers in this safety segment. We saw too, Dr. Rooney, that 3M was doing a lot with workforce safety or personal safety in the workforce, hard hats and protective clothing, things like that, growing real big in that area. So I think they're doing, I'm sorry, I like to drop the whole thing.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you want me to go back?
No, no, no. I'm just waiting for the slide to change.
Okay.
And here in this one, the threat of new entrants is, you can see that this one is also lower because the capital is more. You're in the energy and electronic segments now, and so it takes more. There's more technology, there's more equipment to start up this company. So the capital is more to invest, so there's not too many entrants coming in. But there still is a lot of competition out there. You still have GE, you have Honeywell. So there is definitely still a lot of competition. So the rivalry is still high.
Here's the health segment. Shanielle.
Yes, sorry. The health segment, I have the intensity of rivalry being kind of moderate, just because hang on one second. The health care is, I mean, everybody needs health care, and eventually we'll need health care. And so the rivalry is moderate, not quite high, because there's available hospitals, but there's not too many available hospitals. You can only choose, like if you saw in one of the, I can't remember which country it was, there where we could open up more because the occupancy was 70%, where we could open up more. So I put the threat as kind of moderate.
I agree with you, but for a somewhat different reason. In the healthcare industry, when you're making stuff that goes into hospitals, sometimes it's actually got to be certified or approved.
Yeah.
You know, somebody got to approve this stuff. You don't want to go spraying the wrong kind of adhesive on a wound and find out that you've been using super glue.
Definitely. And then the threat of new entrants, I did also put that as low because it, like you said, pretty much your explanation right there. The threat of substitutes is pretty high. So because there is a lot of different products, they have such a variety of things that they need in the health segment that there is lots of substitutes out there to replace the ones that we come up with. And so you can go to the next one.
It's on consumer segment.
Yes, this one is one of their last segments. This one is pretty much high in all areas. It's a very kind of like broad category, so there is a lot of competitors in this one. The threat is definitely of new entrants is definitely higher because the capital is a lot lower to enter into an industry like this, which means there's more substitutes and their bargaining power of buyers is higher because there's so many different people they can buy from. And then the suppliers, they don't really have that much bargaining power because there is so many suppliers. So the company can be like, okay, you're not going to give me a deal, so I'll move to the next one. So that one's a little bit lower.
Yeah, what are the buyers? They supply paper, they supply bottles, they supply caps for the bottles and boxes and stuff like that. And there's a bundle of those. So I think Shanielle got this one just exactly right.
Thank you.
Good job, Shanielle.
And then this one right here, just kind of going over exactly what we just went through, just side by side, so you can see each of the segments. You can see how they, you can see which ones have the strengths and the weaknesses, where they're located. And so this will also help 3M locate which areas and industries actually need improvement, or they can see their threats coming in and everything like that, what they need to do, be prepared for it. If there's threat of substitutes, like Dr. Ronnie said, be the substitute. So they know which areas they need to focus their research and development on to be that substitute.
And based on this analysis, where is it the most difficult to make a profit? In which industry?
Sorry, it's blocking my last.
Where are the five forces the highest? Because these forces all push profit down, right?
The consumer.
Yeah, so competition's real high in the consumer area. So, you know, if 3M had its way, it would be spending a lot less time there. Rather interesting. Look where industrial ended up.
That's exactly what I was looking at. The industrial ended up being pretty high also, but it is our highest revenue.
Yeah, and so their biggest market category provides them with the least opportunity for large profit. And where are the big profit potential? Where is the big profit potential? Where do we see that?
We see that with the health. Like I think what Charnel was saying before, if you're looking from this chart, it looks like the health one would probably have a little bit more profit.
Boy, it sure does. Healthcare industry looks like it's the most profitable, and in the same ballpark as electronics industry, the energy industry, and the safety products industry. Whereas the traditional markets, oh boy, this stuff is so good for exams. But the traditional markets that 3M is in would be where Kim has raised her hand. We see you, Kim. But the 3M, and doggone it, get your words out. 3M's traditional markets, where they've grown most in the past, are kind of mature. And so 3M has to take advantage of industries where technology is more important and where growth potentials are greatest. Let's invite Kim to jump in and say something. Kim, turn your microphone on and ask your question.
Dr. Roney, can you hear me?
We can hear you great.
Okay, great. Were you saying that the most profits were coming out of the healthcare industry, or I'm sorry, I missed that.
Okay, you can turn I'll turn your hand off. Boy, I hear you guys in the background. No, I don't. Ha, I turned you off. Kim, we do the 5 forces to estimate the profit potential of an industry. 3M is a supplier of products to other companies. Okay, it sells some consumer products too, but even those go to wholesalers and big buyers like trying to think of the big office products company. But in any event,
Like Staples?
Yeah, like Staples. Yeah. So, but most importantly, each one of these market categories is made up of industries. And so what this group, and by the way, these are the industries that 3M declares are their market segments. You're going to hear a lot more about them. So what this team did was assess the profit potential of each one of those industry groups for 3M, for specialty chemicals. And what they found was that the forces that push profit down are the highest in the consumer group and almost as high in the industrial group. And the takeaway there is that, the Post-it notes and Scotch tape and Scotch Guard, those are the original products of 3M. And 3M's biggest market today, which you're going to hear about more later, is the industrial products group. So its largest markets and its most traditional markets are the least encouraging. They're the least attractive when you think about getting high profit margins. And where we see the forces that push down profit are the least strong are those that are characterized by technology, by extreme care, the requirement for high quality, as in healthcare. And then the safety product is pretty much the same as healthcare. You're talking about stuff that keeps people from dying. And in electronics and energy, you're talking about high-tech everything. And so that's where the forces for that push down profit are the least, and therefore the incentive for 3M to make more of their specialty chemical products for those industry groups is the highest, because they can expect higher profit margins in them. How we doing, Kim? You all right now?
Yes, sir. Thank you for explaining that.
It was my pleasure. Okay, let's go. Come on.
The industry life cycle. 3M has progressed through all of the 5 stages of the industry life cycle, and you'll see that in the slides to come. 3M's industry life cycle. This is Shanielle's baby.
Yes, this one here, you see that the new highway safety, which eventually they're trying to come up with, I can't remember how you explained it, Dr. Rodney, but strips on the side of the highway. You said timeout?
Put in sense.
Think about self-driving cars. So,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain,
Danielle.
but I wasn't sure what to call the stuff on the side, but the strips on this, okay, you have self-driving cars, and in order to stay in the lines and know exactly where they are, you will have 3M coming up with the new highway safety to have strips on the side to let the car know. It will signal something to the car to let them know they're getting ready to go out of the line, so it keeps them in between the lines. So that one is still in the growth because that's something that's newer. So it still has a lot of room to grow in there. Along with energy, healthcare, pretty much all the ones that you just saw and the other ones that were kind of lower, they will be in the growth. The old highway safety is kind of in the mature now. It's kind of rested, along with the manufacturing and consumer segments.
this really matches up with your 5 forces analysis, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just perfectly.
Didn't do it on purpose, but it did. It all came together. And then this one here, the BCG matrix, you can see here, I know most of you guys should be familiar after doing the projects, like, you know, the size of it and everything like that, what it means and everything. So the industrial you see here is the most revenue it brings in. Although it brings in a lot of revenue, it's still slow with its market growth and a little bit lower with the market share. Then energy is higher along with the healthcare. It's a little bit high in both the market growth and the market share. And then the new highway safety is going to be pretty high for that one because it's something new. It's growing. That's why the growth is actually pretty fast too.
And nobody has a real high share or dominant share because it's so new.
Yeah.
This is this stuff that's got electronics in the tape so that the car's computer, the self-driving car, can pick up the signals from little transmission devices in the tape, underneath the tape actually, so the weather doesn't get at it. So the tape reflects the light, but it also sends out a signal so the self-driving car can stay within the lines. Ain't that cool?
Awesome.
Very cool.
And then here we have our critical success factors report card. Our top ones for 3M are the science, engineering, innovation, technology, research and development, as LaTanya had mentioned multiple times before, and market research, customer relationship management. As you can see here, they have their competitors have just as high as them in these things. So they do have really high rivalry when it comes to this. That's why in this one, it's critical to be the substitute. But they do focus on like the innovation and the research and development. Along with that comes the science and the engineering. You need to have researchers and engineers to create these innovations, especially like the highway that we were just talking about with the self-driving cars. You're going to need lots of science and engineering behind that. And then also doing market research, you know, make sure that you know what's out on the market, the trends, kind of exactly what this analysis is about. So you know what's out there and you know exactly how you can go about your strategy with 3M. Say next.
This is our conclusion of the critical success factors here, keeping a theme of survival of the fittest, 3M. And these factors have to drive a long-term strategy in order for them to continue to succeed. And that's competition. We talked about rivals and continuing new innovation and technology. Again, 3M being very innovative. Research and development, very big for them. And brand loyalty. Capabilities analysis. Going to our financial trends. the years 2004 to 2015. And Michael, this is your baby.
Yes. Actually, what you'll notice in
Michael, I see you got a good haircut today.
you like it?
That's about all I can see is your haircut.
Hold on, right quick. Let's see the gray hairs in my beard. Some of those belong to you.
Okay, well, yeah, you got it. I won't compliment you on your shave then.
The finance experience for 2014, I'm sorry, 2004 to 2015. What you'll notice is, let me pull it up right quick. The sales dipped in the year 2009 as far as sales, and we all know that's due to the economic recession or global downturn. Let's see. The operating margin, it actually dipped as well. You'll notice in 2008, it also reflects the economic downturn as well, but it did go back up in 2009 before it declined again in 2010. Leverage, they had to actually finance some things. Looks like in 2008, leverage went up to around 35%. It declined in years 2010 through years 2014, and then it went back up again in 2015. As they had to, I think what they did, they brought back stocks. They had a couple of acquisitions. In fact, in 2014, they actually paid off a balance of a loan that they drew from Chase Mortgage, and that loan was $850 million. So that's in essence what they do. They don't mind buying back stocks or financing or borrowing money for new innovative projects. So you'll see that in that graph. And then you go down to return on investment. Again, the economic downturn in 2008, 2009, that graph shows us that it actually dropped down to about 18%. Again, it went back up again around 2010 and 2011, and it dropped down again in 2012. Again, I think what they did was they ended up borrowing more money. So the return on investment went down, and that's probably due to the fact that interest rates were a little lower in 2012, so they borrowed more money to actually replace money that they actually borrowed at a higher percentage rate.
So they took advantage of low interest rates?
Yes, they did.
And made some capital expenditures.
That's what they did.
Okay.
And that correlates between both the charts as far as leverage and return on investment is concerned. So we'll go to the next slide.
Woo!
Long-term debt. Again, they've had to actually borrow more money. They brought back stocks. In 2014, 2015, they actually they brought about $5 billion of its own stocks between the years of 2014 and 2015. And in 2016, this is off the chart, they're actually going to purchase anywhere from $4 to $6 billion of its own stock.
Way to go, Michael. Okay, so we talked about this, and I asked Michael to do some research to find out, and he did. He got the answer. So look at that. Look at the drop in debt, in equity rather. It drops from about 17 billion or 18 billion all the way down to 12. So the net worth of the company, the shareholders' equity, dropped by $6 billion, a little bit more. And while the company was profitable, and whenever you got profit going up and equity going down, the answer is probably that the company bought back stock, and Michael found out that's exactly what happened. By the same token, they still needed capital, so they went out and borrowed it. Since the banks have been having a sale on money, right? That's not about to end, but right now you can get money so inexpensively.
Right.
Because interest rates are low, that 3M decided to reward their shareholders by buying back stock, making the stock that remains more valuable per share, and continuing to finance themselves with what amounted to damn near free money.
It did. Next slide. Again, with the return on investment, you will notice that it did drop down in 2009, and that's the return of the money that they actually brought out, I guess, borrowed to purchase other companies and to make capital expenditures or whatever. So that did drop again in 2009, and again, you'll notice that it did come back up in years 2010 to 2011. And I'm assuming interest rates did drop down, but they did drop down in 2012 again. So the return is actually going back up for years 2013 to 2014.
That's because the denominator went down. Net income divided by the opening shareholders' equity. When the shareholders' equity goes down and income is going up, you know damn well your fraction is going to go up like a rocket. And those are abnormal rates of return on equity. I mean, you just can't do that over the long term. What is really impressive on this chart isn't even the increase in return on investment in recent years. It's the fact that when they were having a bad time, their return on invested capital was 18%. And you know, when they're having sort of a yucky year, they've got a 20% return on invested capital. I've worked for clients that would have been very happy with a 20% return on invested capital because I was criticizing them for not getting that. When you get to 25% return on invested capital, you're doing great. And so even when 3M's not doing its best, it's getting a good rate of return. That means that this is a very profitable company and it's able to generate really good returns.
Thank you, Dr. Ronan. It just shows that they are, due to innovation, they are, I would say they have been recession-proof thus far. Next slide, please.
LaTanya.
I did. I don't know why you get a delay when I do it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's slow.
There it is, the capital. As we noticed, from years 2006 to 2007, right before the recession actually hit, they were actually spending more money or investing more money into the capital budget, as far as, I guess, making purchases of machinery, equipment, or whatever to keep the company running. And it took a dip after 2008 and went below, I guess, around about 15,000, I would say, 15 billion or whatever.
Billion.
And that shows us that, you know, the economic downturn had an effect on how much money the capital they were spending. So after the economic downturn, you'll see that it did increase back up to, in 2010, around 20 billion, and 2012, 22 billion, which again tells us that the interest rates on borrowed money was affecting how much money they spent towards the capital. In year 2008, on the leverage side of it, you had to spend more money or buy back stocks. It looks like the economic recession hit them pretty hard as far as the leverage is concerned. So they borrowed money for acquisitions or stocks, and they went back down in 2010, almost back down to 20%. And in 2013, it rebounded again. 2014 to 2015, it rebounded again, which means they actually borrowed more money.
And this graph, this pie chart will show you the percentage of total revenue in those areas that we mentioned before. You'll see again that the industrial is the largest one for 3M. That's the largest market that they have, or just bringing in more revenue. Here are some charts that kind of breaks down what you just saw in that pie graph. But like Dr. Roney had explained to us, and if you notice, 3M is not leading in market share in these areas or against their competitors. But they are still very innovative, and they're still really strong in the markets. They're just not leading in those markets. And this is the industrial and transportation. See their market share at 2.88%. same type of graph for healthcare products. Again, 3M is still not leading, but their percentage of revenue is still there. They're still strong in healthcare. Consumer and office product segment. Once again, you'll see Dow at 19.39% market share, 38.76 total revenue. But 3M is still good in this market. There's still a presence in this market, even though they're not leading in this market. Electronics and communication segment. This breaks down what you saw on the pie. Dow Chemical is actually leading in this market, but 3M is there's still a presence there. Protection services. You'll see United Technologies leading in this segment, but 3M again they're still here, 12.14% of their total revenue. Display and graphics. This is 12.27%, this segment of 3M's revenue. Safety and graphics jumps up 18.58%. Not leading in these markets, but they're still doing pretty well. And this explains the charts that you just saw, these next few charts. You'll see healthcare at 18.6% of their sales. And you'll see the things that they're selling, the products. And industrial and transportation, 30.8%. Consumer and office, 15%. Display and graphics, 13.5%. Electronics and communications, and safety, security, and protection, they combine those.
Let's take just a quick break here to realize or think about what we just seen. As LaTanya has pointed out, the share of these industrial groups that 3M serves as markets, those shares are pretty low. So you would think that 3M doesn't have a lot of strength in them because there are competitors like Dow and DuPont, and General Electric and Honeywell, and they're bigger. And that's the nature of the specialty chemicals industry and other specialized industries. 3M doesn't try to compete in all of the segments of those industry groups. It just can't. It's not as big as those other companies. Instead, what it tries to do is identify little niches, little product areas that can benefit from 3M's specialized research. 3M has to go into those industries and find out what unmet needs there are, what opportunities 3M has to develop a better adhesive product or a better plastic product or something better that meets a specific small segment. And although 3M may have only 5% of that industry group, it's really 5%. It has a large share of a subgroup. And in that subgroup, it doesn't have a 5% market share. It's got maybe an 80 or 90% market share because it may be the only one that developed that solution for that specialized need. And they may patent it so nobody else can make that product for 13 years or 17 years, sorry. So the strategy here, one of my clients used to call it, he told me that this was, and it was the specialty chemical industry. And he told me, Kurt, this is an industry of littles, Littles, which meant that they serve very tiny little miniature market niches. And they identify in that niche an opportunity to capture control of it through research and development, through technology that makes their product superior. And if they can patent it, then nobody can copy it for a long time. And so when we see a market segment as big as the electronics industry or the automotive industry and so forth, and we see 3M as a little segment of it, and yet their profit margins are so nice and rich, what we learn is that this is the benefit of being a specialist and being a specialist in these little market niches. And that essentially is a big part of 3M's strategy. So very focused. Yes, it's differentiation to the nth degree, but it's differentiation by offering virtually thousands of products for thousands of little market niches.
Thank you, Dr. Rooney. Functional strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, and I'll name them out like we said before we were all able to read. Diversity, innovation, brand equity that relates to what Dr. Rooney was just telling us. Retailer relationships. Just to make note there, the little side note, many strong distribution channels. Again, going back to how we talked about 3M and being in different markets. And just like he said, they'll find their niche, specialize in something, and develop strong relationships. Financial backing, global operations, global expertise. Some of their weaknesses, lack of focus. They're not focusing on just one area, and I think that has worked out well for them, even though it is listed as a weakness. Continual investment requirements, and no recent blockbusters like Scotch tape and Post-it notes, Scotch Guard. Recent developments, generating fewer productivity improvements than estimated. Unanticipated problems or delays. Moving on to the goals and strategic objectives. Generic strategic, as Dr. Rooney has said, and as we have stated, differentiation. This is a good strategy for 3M. It's working out well for them. And as he mentioned, they have chosen or developed their own niches, so they stay in these markets. As I stated, they are a presence, even though they may not be leading. They are a strong presence in these markets because of their, like Dr. Rooney said, their niches. And low cost.
Not necessarily low cost. Let's go back to that last slide.
I'd say they're not low cost.
No.
It's not part of their strategy. What they have a really well-known brand names, multiple brand names, and so they do go off of that. They're more about quality.
Yeah.
Quality products. So their prices are a little bit higher than your traditional. Like you go and get Scotch tape, you notice Scotch tape is a little bit more expensive than the other brands sitting around because they are all about quality. But consumers are willing to pay that because of their been around for over 100 years. They're really well known, and their brand's also well known. They also, I can't remember what year they did marketing. One of their marketing strategies was trying to get their brand name out. And so they concentrated on a whole bunch of different marketing, getting their brand names out and different advertisements along those lines. But they are not, they're not low cost.
Yeah, if you remember back when we were talking about the generic strategies of low cost and differentiation, we had some graphics, but it pointed out that differentiation creates value not for the company, but for the company's customer. Mm-hmm. And when you've got a specialized product that you may be the only supplier of, and the customer realizes value from buying it, then the customer is going to be willing to pay you a high price, maybe, you know, on a dollar per pound basis or something like that. It'd be a really high price, but the customer is delighted to pay it because the customer is going to get more than it pays for. It's going to make its own profitability even higher, or enable it to do things it couldn't have done before. For instance, in a surgical room. So low cost is definitely not the strategic objective. 3M's got to pay attention to its costs, but it's a differentiator, and that's a big deal. Okay.
And I apologize, Shanielle. I thought that everybody would just read it. I tried to hesitate or slow down and let them read that part. I should have just read
I say you're good. You're good.
their innovations, and I think we probably can't say it enough, is very important. 3M's under this generic strategy differentiation, giving 3M a competitive advantage, allowing 3M to charge higher prices, going back to them not being or using a low-cost strategy, brand recognition, as we stated before. And I believe this is yours, Michael.
Who's the banker? Mike, your microphone's off. Michael, your microphone is off, Michael.
Thank you. I got it back on. Thank you. I actually, this is basically saying the same things as earlier, somewhat, but I'm confused because I thought we had this under capabilities and analysis. So,
This is a forecast, isn't it? It's a forecast.
These are your financial goals, Michael. This is what you're hoping to get by 2020, remember?
Yeah.
okay.
The other one was 2000, was later. This one's 2000s currently until 2020. So it's a little bit different
Yeah.
than the other ones. This is what our company, or 3M, wants to get to by 2020, where we want to be at, our goal that we
That's
want to
right.
accomplish.
Well said, Shania.
So you have anything else to add?
Somebody say something.
I'm sorry. Well, it looks like the operating profit margin is also going to increase from 2016 all the way through 2020. And what that tells us is that they are actually planning on making some money.
Making more money. Now, making more money, I said. When you look at these charts, it's very easy to just sort of fall asleep. So, yeah, okay, they go up. But in fact, for that profit margin to go up, something has to happen. You know, this is a difference between the selling price and cost. And we saw earlier that Five Forces tells us that in their core markets, in the markets where they do the most business, that is consumer products and industrial, it's tougher to make a good profit margin. And yet here we see the expectation of profit margins going up. How, if we believe whoever did these forecasts, how could that profit margin go up when they're in these big market segments where the pressure on profitability and pushing profit down is so heavy? And of course, your answer is they're going into those new market segments in a bigger way, right? We're going to get more out of healthcare. We're going to do more in electronics. We're going to do more in safety. Where, you know, if we've got something that'll keep the cars from crashing into each other and going outside the lines, we're going to get great big contracts from the federal government and the state government and so forth. And, you know, if we're making surgeons more successful, then, you know, they're going to buy our product. So the only way to get these profit margins up is by altering the product mix in the favor of higher profit, more profitable products. And that seems to be what we're looking at here. I hadn't thought about it until just looking at this slide, but if I think it again of it when I'm looking over these slides, making up the questions, I'm going to pick up on that. That's a good question. How do you get the profit margin up at 3M? Boy, isn't that a good question too? If you guys were me, would you write that question in the exam?
Of course I would.
Hell yes, you would. Don't argue with me, Michael.
Next slide, please.
I guess Michael decided he'd had enough.
Oh my God. Again, as we noticed, the return
I'm
on
sorry.
the return on investment, it went down again. And of course, we're spending money. We're making it and we're spending it at the same time. And
because the capital goes up in those out years, the equity goes up, right?
this is right.
Return on equity goes down because you've got more equity. So the denominator is bigger and the fraction is smaller. But when you're talking about return on investment, you've got more equity and you still have borrowed money. So the amount of capital is higher, and therefore, relative to operating profit, the return on investment is lower. But lower than what? Man, you're talking 30% return on investment. That is not chopped liver. That's a great return. So it goes down from 31 to 30. Give me a break. That's okay.
They've known to stay at anywhere from 18 to 26%. I mean, and compared to others in the industry, I think they do fairly well for their.
Oh boy. I wish I had some clients that made 30% return on investment. They could have paid me higher fees.
Financial
Okay,
projections. Is that still good?
long-term debt, as we can see here, they're projecting for it to go down from 26
debt.
from about $92 billion. It's going to drop down to around $60 billion. And what this tells us is they're actually going to pay off some of the debt from the money that they borrowed.
From 9 to 6. So they're going to drop $3 billion
It'll drop $3 billion.
in debt. They're going to pay the bank back $3 billion. And how much is equity going to go up?
Equity is going to go up from $12 billion all the way up to around 16. I'd say maybe about 16.
Okay, so that's up to that's at least $4 or maybe $5 billion of increase in equity. So when you add them together, capital is going to go up, and that's part of the reason why. And the return on invested capital goes down, because with the same operating profit, the denominator is larger, so the fraction is a little smaller. Not much. And don't forget, that equity is going up even though they're buying back stock and paying dividends. So you're returning money to the shareholders, and still the net worth of the company goes up. Okay? So every financial analyst who looks at these numbers of 3M just smiles. You know? This is what we call smiling numbers. That's really a term in the financial industry, believe it or not. Smiling numbers.
Thank you for the addition.
My pleasure.
Okay, here we see in the projections for 2016, 2020, the capital expenditures. Oh my goodness, they went off the chart. I mean, they're up to 22 billion?
21 to 22. It just went up, just like we said, it went up about $1.25 billion. Yeah, the scale fools you. See, when we gained equity of something like $4.5 billion, and we paid back about $3 billion in debt, and so the difference was $1.5 billion. So
Right.
when you start at 21.5, you go up to 22.25, and basically that's it. That's what the difference is. The real excitement here is the drop in leverage, because debt as a portion of capital goes down since we're paying off all that debt. How do you do? Now I'm a happy cowboy. I wasn't very happy before when the leverage was up around 43, 44, 45%.
Right.
That doesn't make financial analysts happy.
Makes
But
you
when
feel
when we get down before 30%, I'm a happy analyst. Boy, these numbers are smiling at me again. Because I know they're nice and secure. They're nice and stable.
And I should add, and I know everyone already knows, but a lot of those charts are just confirming the information that we have on some of these slides. And I'm so thankful, Dr. Rooney, that you are helping us out. Favorable market positions for 3M. And the market shares are increasing in industrial, transportation, all of those markets that we listed: healthcare, consumer and office, electronics and communication, and safety as well.
Oh, shit.
Say what?
Mike.
He forgot his microphone is on. So market share.
We're supposed to be deleted, so we're going to skip 2. We have the wrong presentation, I think, up.
Well, these, I'm going back. They were just going to show the information that we had already went over. So we were going to take those out so we won't keep repeating the same things over and over again. These two were basically the information that Michael was just showing, the projections that 3M is anticipated by 2020. Other strategic objectives: communication management, people learning objectives, that was the internal objective, I'm sorry, and people learning objectives or training and knowledge. And that is really big for them. Training their employees and letting them run their specialties. Strategy. And is this you, Charnel? What is the rationale for the strategic approach selected?
No, this not me.
3M, okay, 3M seeks to capitalize on its existing base of business. And this is confirming also, or going over or reiterating what Michael was talking about in some sense. Leveraging its technology platform to introduce differentiated products from its current menu, going back to having their niches, and entirely new products to establish footholds where it sees future opportunities. So here, strategies. Again, I guess we cannot say these enough. Differentiation is really big for 3M. And they always seek and maintains their niche. New products, they're gonna have their niche. And you'll see the other ones as product development, market development, product diversification, vertical and horizontal integrations. Shanielle, is this yours?
Who did Ansos Matrix?
I did the Ansos Matrix. What you'll notice here that you'll see that product diversification or product proliferation and diversification is one of the top areas that they do want to try to get into. Being that they are an innovative company, they always are looking for a way to diversify their products to make more money off the consumers.
Yeah, can you think of any examples here?
I had an example of a stethoscope.
Yeah, that's a good one. Tell us about that.
I think they should be on the next slides, Mike.
But I think what we ended up doing, what they did with that was they made the stethoscope, Bluetooth. That enabled for them to actually transmit data from the stethoscope to the charts or what have you, wirelessly.
To a computer, so you got a stethoscope with a Bluetooth transmitter on it.
Correct. And that saved a lot of time as far as walking back and forth from different rooms or what have you. They were able to just go ahead and download the information from the actual stethoscope the information from the data from the stethoscope to the computer without having to go to it and write it in by hand.
Okay. We got a question from the audience. Kim?
I was just going to let Michael know that I've actually seen that. The heart sounds and the lung sounds, abdominal sounds were all downloaded into the EHR.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Kim, how are you? Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kim.
Oh, that's right. She's right there where it's happening.
As far as market development, as you can see in the slide, it does talk about surgical drapes, surgical tape, and most of all, Post-it notes. Those, even though they're still innovative, we use a lot of those in the office that I work in, and I noticed that in the doctor's office they use a lot of them too. And keeping in mind that when you think of Post-it notes, it's not only talking about Post-it notes, but rather we're talking about the little pads that the doctor actually writes the prescriptions on. That in a sense, that's actually a form of a Post-it note or a variation.
Yeah, it's really important to distinguish a new an existing product for a new market, and as opposed to a new product for an existing market. So masking tape, I'm just curious here and trying to make a point at the same time. It is very possible for a new product to be developed, and it's a new product, but it's a new product that's based upon what 3M does now, for instance, adhesives, but it gets them into a new market like healthcare. So surgical drapes could have been a way to get into a new market, surgery rooms, or to get into healthcare or to hospitals. So it'd be a new product, because that's what 3M does. That's how it gets into new markets, is creating a product for them. But if it's the same kind of product that they've been making all along, then it's an existing product for a new market. On the other hand, and by the way, Post-it notes probably was too, except that they were already in, office supplies with Scotch tape and the like.
Right.
So you kind of wonder whether that's well, it is. It's a new product for an existing market. So you got it just right. So now the question is, do we have any examples of new products for existing markets? The sort of stuff that where once they're into an industry, they develop new product. You're going to show us that now, huh? Okay.
Yes, exactly. What we see here is the masking product development example, taking adhesives in the manufacturing industry. That it started with masking tape, spray adhesive sealants, and many other products. As far as market development, product development.
You got us so nervous.
I'm sorry.
Well, was Michael finished with that slide?
I'm sorry, Michael. I thought you were.
Market development. Basically, what this says is 3M has a wide range of products, and it establishes its presence in developing and developed markets.
Okay, so when they take their existing products into a new country, that's market development.
That's right.
Existing product for a new market. Perfect. And product development are illustrations of these things that you've got on the upper right. When they're taking adhesives and tapes and films and filters and sealants, and developing new products for the markets that they're already in, such as industrial.
Thank you.
Works for me.
Next slide, please.
Ready to go? Okay.
Okay, product development. Yeah, this is another one of 3M's goals. Again, we can't say enough that it is an innovative company. So they have to continuously innovate or find new ideas. So with that being said, there has been very little growth. And this does enable them to grow in each industry, very small increments rather. They use diversification to expand into new markets, which is called product proliferation. There's the stethoscope that we talked about earlier with an electronic stethoscope. This goes up under the category of diversification, and rightfully so. This is a new product, but it's introduced into the same market. 3M is very, very diversified in that respect. Okay, strategy vertical integration as a strategy. For the most part, 3M does acquire smaller companies, and I read something in the literature that states, I think within the last 5 years, I think it did 60 to 70 acquisitions of smaller companies that actually perform similar activities that they actually perform in their manufacturing segments of the business. So that is a firm example of vertical integration. And as you can see, this does have a negative impact on third-party suppliers, as well as it enables them to save money in their production process and make their shareholders happier. This is something that Dr. Rona actually brought to my attention. We talked about nanotechnology a lot. There was quite a bit of information in the literature about nanotechnology. And what we see here is that they are actually using nanotechnology to restructure gasoline tanks to enable them to actually hold high pressure natural gas. And we're talking about 3,500 pounds per square inch. That's a lot of pressure. Before, we were not able to hold natural gas safely in areas that the public can actually access those, like they do at regular gasoline tanks. So this is something going to be really big because the United States is actually the largest producer of natural gas in the world.
Yeah, this is cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, that product is being made and used in test in California. I think the picture we saw might have had a palm tree, or I'm not sure, but it was in California.
Yes,
And there are cars running around with tanks full of LPG, and as Michael pointed out, this LPG is under a lot of pressure. And so the concern that the folks who authorize people or companies to make new products that could be dangerous, their concern is these tanks with LPG in it could blow up. So the challenge is to make a container that can withhold and withstand that kind of pressure. And here Michael has shown us how folks like 3M are solving that problem with nanotechnology by impregnating the material that the container is made of, so that it's not welded steel, but it's a lightweight fabric that is as strong as steel. Really amazing stuff.
When you first spoke of nanotechnology, it brought me back to the water treatment plants that we actually have online in my area. When we built our house, they actually set up a nanofiltration plant. And that was high technology. They actually strained so much impurities out of the water that they actually had to go back and add minerals and stuff to it because of the filtration of the nanosystems.
Yep.
Now we're moving to implementation. Sorry, my throat is dry. Important programs, and I think Shanielle made up some programs and did some research on this important programs. Is that right, Shanielle?
Yes, they're a little bit different. I think they're on the next slide, or it's coming up a couple more slides.
Okay, here we're going looking through a diversity lens. 3M continues to discover other prospects in these areas listed below: product and packing development, design, service delivery, and supplier diversity. And service delivery can also be related to earlier when Michael was telling us or showing us how they are in the market of transporting medication and things like that. They're doing the plastics. And so they're really involved in service delivery. Research and development operating principles. 3M, as we see, are some of the top innovators, or one of the top innovators in the world. Research and development is really strong again. And you'll see a couple of bullets that we have here. Rule of 15%. At 3M, we live by our wits. Scientists spend 15% of their lab time in research. And going back to what Dr. Rooney was saying, they're in the lab and they're being innovative. As you see, increasing innovation. And then the 25-5 rule. And explaining that basically is saying that 25% of the company profits should come from products that are at least 5 years old.
And later that was raised to 30. The footnote on this slide is really important. For a long time, 3M had that rule of 15%, as it was called. And the rule of 15% essentially was that every scientist in the laboratory could take 15% of their working time to do research of any old kind that they want. It was free time to putz around the lab and explore their own ideas. And the results of that were Scotch tape and masking tape and Scotchgard and what am I trying to think of? Oh yeah, Post-it notes. And all of these things were discovered kind of by accident, just because scientists were, and you can read about this, by the way, in the discussion of the 3M case at the back of your textbook. There's a case, there's a discussion of 3M right there in your textbook, which I assume everybody on this team has read. So you will read, if you haven't, that a lot of these discoveries just happened. And so the thought was that to be innovative, live by our wits, as it were, is to let our scientists go off and discover things, and eventually the company will benefit. But what was happening was that, as this slide has said, or an earlier slide said, when we looked at strengths and weaknesses, 3M just hasn't had any real blockbusters lately. And they were kind of in a rut, you know, in these consumer products and industrial products. And then James McNerney came in. He was a high executive at General Electric. And he came in as the CEO of 3M. And you can read about that in the case as well. Right now, McNerney happens to be chairman of Boeing. But when McNerney went in there, he saw that a whole lot of stuff had to change. For instance, he introduced, maybe Shanielle's going to tell us about that. I think I'd better not talk about that. But what McNerney did was realize that the research and development had to be more focused, that had to be, it had to respond to market research, and research like those 5 forces, which was something that happened all the time at 3M, at GE. They did a lot. They used a lot of the principles that Michael Porter developed in strategy formation. And they certainly used all the tools that we've talked about in this course. And in the process, identified areas, some of these niches that we're talking about, industry segments or sub-segments, and niches where applied research could develop breakthroughs. And so McNerney got him to, you know, it wasn't like he didn't say, look, scientists, we don't want you to think or be creative anymore. But what they tried to do was get everybody focused in on areas, product areas and application, market segments, where they wanted to focus most of their research so that they could come up with more new products. And the result was 3M turned around and their profit went up because they developed more of these new products that justify higher prices. And I might add that the reason McNerney was brought in was the directors finally just got fed up with the prior chairman who lived by these old rules. And the problem was that, you know, it was kind of like, you know, a college or something. Everybody sort of did their own thing, and it just wasn't focused. There wasn't a lot of planning and direction. And McNerney was a great planner, and so he gave him direction, and the result is history. 3M got up, started to get up and grow again. And but the rule of 15% just reminds us that it's this creativity in the laboratory. Whether you're focusing on just one market segment or you're allowed to go your own way, better to be focused, but 3M still wants its scientists and its engineers to to be creative. And it's very difficult to get a balance, to have folks be creative and innovative, and at the same time focusing in on market segments that we think are most likely to take us in a profitable direction. That's a very delicate balance that has to be struck.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
This the 34 rule, as it stated on the last one, that it changed from the 25 rule. 30% of the profit should come from products over 4 years now. So that has been changed, as he stated. 7% rule. From every $1 of sales, 7% will be spent on research and development. Big on research and development. And 3M wants 28% more sales from large investments in research and development. Big on research and development. Important programs.
These are Chanel's specials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of. I kind of did a mix, but for implementing the plan and continuing the success at 3M, I did come up with 4 different plans. One of them, the lead user process team, 3M has actually already put in their company before previously. And then creative mind system, group interview process, and leadership academy. Let's see if you can go to the next one. Did our slides get mixed up?
I'm to the next slide. I don't understand why you're not seeing it, or why it's moving so slow, I guess I should say. Do you see it now?
Oh, there you go. In order to do this, there's major requirements for making these new innovations. You need the skills in the research and development segment of the business. You also need more diversification through those employees. You want all different creative thoughts and everything like that. So you definitely need to be a little bit more diverse. You also need to, we need to set up new system for developers to have a better guidance, which all of the ones that I just stated before, this will help with all of these. The new skills, which would be the leadership academy, the diversification, which would be the group interviewing process. The new system for the developers to have better guidance would be the Creative Minds program that I created. And then the last one, we'll use the lead user process to establish a team or well-qualified employees to be part of the lead user process team. And then this right here is actually a chart, kind of how to explain how, because 3M has already implemented this before, which I think they definitely need to go back to it. But it looks at the users, that the lead users, people who, hang on one second, sorry, my computer. It looks at people that are in need of a new product. And these users normally are ahead of everybody. They're before they come up with something, they need something, currently need something. So they're saying what they need and everything like that. And then companies like 3M learn from those lead users what they need and create something to accommodate that, which gets their innovative process going. So they collect all that information and then they come up with solutions on how to help and aid in the new innovations.
This is a brilliant approach to identify those companies in the market segments you're working in that are in the lead, the ones that are coming up with new processes, new products, and the like. And 3M would like to identify them and then help them in order to develop the material, the products that those companies that are in the forefront of their industries, to help them, move along and provide them the material and the products to grow with. And of course, what 3M expects is that when that industry segment grows, because these leaders start off the growth process, other companies may come into that industry segment and try to participate in the growth. And of course, they'll all have to go to 3M to get these essential materials and products. That's really smart.
And this slide right here, it kind of explains how that would work. You'd have like 4 to 6 people. So you'll have your team, and then you'll lay out the foundation. You'll identify your target markets, and then determine the trends. And then that's when, after you've done all that, you'll identify your lead users. So that's when that process comes into play. And then you'll develop a breakthrough. The next step is from those lead users, use that information to come up with a breakthrough and innovation, and then you would commercialize it.
Really good.
And then this one here, I kind of just created, and then I did more research and realized they actually already have something very similar, just called different. It's just a different name. But it's the New Leadership Academy program, which consists of training leaders in each department. So they will all attend meetings, monthly meetings, and for training and everything like that, these leaders. And then team building classes, which the leaders will participate in with their employees, because you have to think that 3M is very diversified. So they have a whole bunch of different segments. So there's a manager of your safety segment, there's a manager of your transportation, all your different segments. So in order to keep things from not being so confusing and all mixed up, they separate the managers, and so you have many leaders within the company. So it's important that each leader is trained and that they have their own teams. So it's important that they do team building classes to continue to be innovative. And then in here it says the monthly meetings with leaders from the different segments. So they'll go over progress reports, evaluation quotas that they need to make, and anything like if anybody came up with anything or any ideas or creative things, that would come into play too in the next one. And this is the Creative Minds, which is a new program that will help assist developers like in the research and development segment of 3M. This, which would include like a platform for developers, they'll be able to speak freely of their opinions or suggestions of any ongoing projects. Resources will be made readily available for project, and that's why so much money goes into research and development. So part of that money would assist in the resources that are needed to be available for those projects. And then budget plans for the new projects would be going over in the Creative Minds program. And then the leader needs to be highly qualified in order for them to provide guidance for each developer. And 3M kind of leads in a way, like kind of leave their scientists alone. Exactly what Dr. Rodney was saying. I read a lot up there. They just let them do their thing. They leave them alone, because that's when the process, they come up with things more easily in that process.
That's right.
And then this here is another one I created, which is the group interview process, which is a program. Sorry, I have to cough, sorry. But is a program that will alter the hiring process by not only doing like individual interviews, but doing group interviews. So you'll do a phone interview, and then you'll do, after the phone interview, you'll go ahead and do your individual interview. And then I came up with the group interview, because you also want to see how the people work together in a group, and you don't want everybody to have the same ideas. You want everybody to have different ideas. So you want that diversification. So I think as a group, if you interview them as a group, you can pinpoint which ones that you need to include in your company. And so that was another one I created. I thought that would be really good to test them on their teamwork skills and see what kind of creative things in the interview process that they can all come up with and solve together as a team. And then that's we'll cut out with, or laying people off because they're not working out. It'll make things more efficient because you got good players on the team now. And so I did come up with that, hoping to help with efficiency and everything.
Shanielle, if I can interrupt again for just a quick minute. You said that you came up with, on these implementation consideration slides, are these your suggestions, or are they a summary of what you've learned that 3M is doing already?
They are kind of my suggestions. I'm sure when first I came up with these, and then I went back and looked, they do have similar programs, not exactly the same. After I had already added this to the slide a couple days ago, I did find out they do have similar ones. The only one that is the one that they've used is the lead user process. But the other ones are just something that I suggest for the company in order to continue with differentiation and continue success. I came up with those ones on my own.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, on this slide, which is the last slide, thank God, we basically just give a recommendation to 3M about how to implement this strategy successfully. We all know 3M is a highly innovative company, and as the adage goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They seem to do very well with setting aside money to promote innovation and employee experimentation. So accordingly, what we decided as a group was to say, hey, listen, continue on, put aside the funds for innovation and employee experimentation. It's worked in the future, and it's been what has kept the company afloat.
And I guess that's consistent with this idea of $1.07 from revenue going to research and development, right? What you want them to do is put together funds to support projects that are particularly attractive. Right. Incidentally, another company, well-known company, does that same thing. It's called Matsushita, whose brand name is Panasonic.
Oh.
That's exactly what they do. They create a budget for research and development, and they divide it 50-50. 50% is for the headquarters laboratory managers to do what they're told to do. The other 50% is allocated to the product divisions, the folks who make everything from televisions to shavers and I don't know, everything else that Panasonic makes. And then the managers of the various product divisions put out what we call RFP, a request for proposal. And the laboratories, the corporate laboratories throughout the world in Panasonic bid with their 50%, bid on those projects to get the other 50% of that company's research and development funds. And so if somebody wants to, if one of the product divisions wants to come up with a new product or a new way to make a particular kind of a product, they'll put out a document that says, here's what we'd like to do. And we've got $2 million to spend on it. So then the laboratory managers, they make proposals on how to accomplish that objective. And they submit those proposals to the product divisions and they compete. And the laboratory managers that are successful are able to hire more scientists and build bigger laboratories and become more influential and get bigger raises. And the ones who don't win in competition by getting their proposals accepted over several years will probably end up not being a laboratory manager anymore. So Panasonic has what they call internal markets. They create a market within Panasonic where the laboratory managers actually compete to do the research and development that the folks who are making these various categories of products to help them do the research and development to develop new features or new products that they want to bring to market. And you've got something like that in mind here yourself, Michael. It looks like what you're saying is you want to have funds to develop early stage projects to come up with new processes or new products or new materials. And lo and behold, you've got a lot of smart people thinking the same way you do.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Dr. Rooney.
And a lot of words at that.
Before we conclude, I would like to say thank you to LaTanya. LaTanya, we really appreciate everything you did tonight. As far as like taking on the role of presenting for us, that was like really a great responsibility. I just want to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank all of you. Everybody worked so hard. We got the best team. You guys are great.
Best team.
Thank you,
Best
guys.
team.
And I would also like to say thank you to Dr. Rodney. Without your help, Rodney, I do not know what we would have done.
Right.
Struggling and meeting with you late at night and everything like that. You definitely helped us out. You were available whenever we needed you, and I do want to say thank you for your help.
Yes, thank you.
Well, that's very
Wait
nice.
until it was over and do a private thank you, but now it's out there. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you all get A's.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
No, but really, thank you so much.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that, and I have enjoyed working with you also. You're a bunch of really super people, and it's been a lot of hard work, hasn't it?
Yes, yes,
It's been
Hardest class yet.
yes.
it's been a real grind. Whoever figured that we could do this in 7 weeks obviously hadn't tried to do it themselves.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of what some people talk about, not wanting the government to tell us how to run our lives. Here we got those bureaucrats in Mount Olive trying to tell us how to do a strategic management course. So let them do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. Let's ask, do we have any comments or questions from the audience? Maybe you can, LaTonya, yeah, make it so that we can see if there's anybody else left in the room or if they all left us or what have you.
We're still here.
Well, LaTonya, maybe you can unsave. Don't stop saving your screen or stop sharing your screen.
I get
I
it.
didn't mean save, I meant stop sharing. I think something else I'm going to do is stop recording. I think we've done enough.